Hey everybody, good Tuesday morning. It's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Update on our heavy rain event. We had some pretty heavy rain last night, which is kind of setting the stage for the problems that are going to develop in the next 24 hours or so. A lot of us slept through that and probably had no idea how much rain fell last night, but we had a lot of rain across the Piedmont and in the mountains and foothills. So the flood watch has been expanded to include most of our area. Only 3 counties not in there. And honestly, remember, these watches in and around the watch area, you still have to be ready. So if you're a county or 2 away from the watch, you're technically kind of still in the threat zone. So pretty much everybody under this flood watch through Thursday, and these excessive rainfall outlook for today really kind of pinpoints the biggest concern here in the mountains and foothills where we've got that medium threat for flash flooding, but pretty much the entire area. See, even areas outside the flood watch have a medium threat for flash flooding today. So the threat would be that we get a heavy rain band and it produces 1 to 2 inches per hour and causes flooding. Now, tomorrow looks to be the worst of this because this is Wednesday's outlook. Our entire area is under the high threat for flash flooding. We might even see an extreme threat if a certain area sees heavy rain tonight and early tomorrow and things kind of line up. So a very heavy rain setup going into tomorrow. Now, the reason we have the flood watch expansion, these were the 24-hour rainfall totals. So I'm going to go in, there's a lot of them on here, but notice most of southern Mecklenburg County over an inch, at least at my house, 1.37, but going to Union County, you had some 2 and 3 inch amounts. So really heavy rain across the Piedmont last night. But look at some of these totals in the mountains and foothills where we're really concerned. I mean, we've got 6, 7 inch amounts showing up, a lot of 5 inch amounts from that upslope. So notice how areas right along what we call the escarpment, which is right there where the southeastern facing slopes are, we've got some totals now between 4 and 6 inches just in the past 24 hours. So remember, and you're probably wondering, okay, I don't live up there. What's the big deal? Well, water runs downhill. All this water up here, folks, has got to come down the Catawba chain. So if you live on Mountain Island Lake, Lake Norman, Lake Wylie, any of the lakes, creeks and streams down here, eastern Gaston County, South Fork of the Catawba River, guess what? That water is coming down here. So not only do you have to worry about the water over us right now, but you got to worry about the water upstream. And so that's why we focus on the whole watershed of where this water is coming from. So let's look at the view. Here's our upper low back here just to the north of Nashville. You can see it spinning there. And what's happening today is actually as it drifts to the south, and actually is going to get a little bit further south, this big plume of moisture back here, once the low gets here, is going to be oriented back this way. So a lot of folks will look down here, oh, it looks like there's no rain to our south. That's not really where the rain's coming from. And remember, the radar is only showing current radar. What's happening is we've got a plume of moisture here, which is going to develop and pivot back into the west. So let me show you the water vapor loop. You can see our upper low, pretty impressive. You see all this moisture here. What happens as this low drops south a little bit to our west, it's going to take this thing, which is going up in this direction now. This is wrapping into this direction. So guess what happens when the low shifts here? It actually causes this band to shift this way as well. So that puts us into the fire hose. The best way I can describe this is if, you've got a hose and you drag the sprinkler down to the southwest, you bring the hose part with it because it's connected. So it's going to drop south as well. So it looks like, oh, it's moving out. But no, actually, because what it's attached to is here. This is the head of the snake, if you will. The whole back end of it's going to drop south as well and move into our region. So pretty impressive low. I love showing this high resolution satellite imagery. You can see the spin there, but I wanted to show the visible because you can kind of see that plume of deep moisture. These are big thunderstorms developing here, flooding going on in parts of Kentucky this morning. But you can see how this kind of band expands back down into Florida. This is what's going to light up. There's sun down here in South Carolina and Georgia. So this line is going to develop into a pretty big band of showers and storms with heavy rain that rotates in from the south and east. So one of the things I showed you yesterday was this precipitable water. And I'm going to back this up just to show you. You can see how over us today, and watch as the low shifts east and how this thing, see this big surge of moisture kind of wrapping around, and then this one back here, they kind of converge on the Carolinas tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, look at this, right here, this stuff starts moving in, and that's when the fire hose is like basically on top of us. One of the cool parameters we can show on this is the anomaly, like how much above normal precipitable water is this. So you can see the blues and greens are really bright returns. And you can see a little lull there maybe later today, but then look at the next surge of greens coming in here in blues. I mean, that's a pretty significant setup for some really heavy rain. Here's another colorization of it. The red is a lot of moisture over us now, and then going into tomorrow, you can see that big surge coming in. So the probability of seeing some very heavy rain is very likely tonight and tomorrow. And because we saturated so many things last night, we're going to see more of that today. So let's look at some of the guidance here going into the future. So I'm going to focus primarily on some of the short range guidance, because this is what we're going to do, rerun the models a lot to see where these heavy rain bands set up, because the exact location of these, it's like thunderstorms. You don't know exactly where. You know it's going to be somewhere in here. So every 6 hours, we're going to have a little bit of an update on where that orientation is, and really a lot of watching just where things set up. But this is going into this afternoon. So this is about 2 p.m. You can see with the heating of the day, I expect a couple bands of pretty good showers. Remember, these are moving, the individual cells are moving this way, even though the bands are drifting this way. So it looks like they're moving out, but what's happening is it's just a flow of moisture. Look at how it's pivoting. And this is going into late this afternoon. So this is by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Look at that heavy rain. So a lot like last night, the heavy rain looks like it's going to set up in the evening and overnight hours again. So this is 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Let me widen out. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And notice how another band is forming down here. So you see how the waves are forming. We'll stop this at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Look at this big band forming. And that kind of lined up well. If you were looking at that precipitable water map I just showed you, that's kind of that next surge of moisture coming in. So this is just a 24-hour outlook, kind of shows you, yeah, we've got a lot of rain heading our way in the next 24 hours. So here's an update on some of the rainfall totals forecasted. And again, this is based on the Weather Prediction Center's some estimates of rainfall. This is through tomorrow morning. This is through Thursday morning. And then we'll go into Thursday night. So an additional, this does not count the rain that has already fallen, an additional 5 to 7 inches here across a good chunk of the foothills, the Unifor region, and the Charlotte area, maybe an additional 2 to 4 inches of rain. So substantial rainfall, and even some tack on little showers there. It looks like going into Friday. So this is really going to pile up. And again, it looks like the orientation of this band could be somewhere in here. But because of the lift here, right there, that flow of moisture coming in this direction is going to hit that wall or mountains and lift the air, and you're going to get a lot of precipitation there, even when the radar doesn't look super impressive. Like we're kind of seeing this morning. Let me turn off the model data and put on the radar. You look at this and go, it doesn't look that bad. It's raining like crazy in some of these areas, and the rainfall is expanding quite a bit. So it's just a matter of time. When I look at some of the surface obs here, we'll look at where it's actually raining. I mean, we've got moderate to heavy rain in some of these locations back here, even though it doesn't look that impressive on radar, because that lift of the mountain is helping out. So we'll be tracking this all day long next couple of days. If you live near water, please be weather aware. We got a lull right now, so go clean the storm drains out, the gutters. Remember, we want to keep this water flowing, so the best we can get it and get it moving downstream, the better, so that it doesn't back up and cause flooding. So please be safe. If you see standing water, don't drive into it. Don't walk into it. The next couple of days are going to be rough, but by the weekend, for the holiday, things will improve.